All these areas are new countries right here. The Soviet Union had just gone through a horrific civil war. And nobody was satisfied with the Treaty of Versailles at all. And it's no coincidence that this interregnum, this interwar period in between the war, will be the rise of fascism. Got to talk a little bit about fascism. It's all the rage today. And where did I put that? Oh, here we go. The rise of fascism. Now, there's like a huge debate amongst people like, what is a fascist today? Is the president of Hungary a fascist? Yeah, that's like a real talk today. Or how much of a fascist is Turkey right now, or Russia right now? I know Turkey. Turkey's gone through hell right now.
With the protests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on? But there's like a debate on what is a fascist. Well, there's lots of definitions, and fascism starts. It really can't start until we have industrialization, until nationalism. Nationalism did not exist. Our idea of nations did not exist. Still need the Industrial Revolution and, in a way, the French Revolution. But what we know, what it is, without a doubt, all fascist regimes they are authoritarian dictatorships. They're dictatorships. Now, you get a fascism, they might call themselves a king or whatever, but it's an authoritarian dictatorship and it is very nationalist. So, there could be no fascism until we have the Industrial Revolution, until you have the Enlightenment, the French Revolution, the idea of constitutionalism, anyway. They just can't exist. But fascism, and there'll be governments very close to this, for the pre-war period, but World War I kind of set up the conditions for it in Italy. World War I in Italy. And that's fighting in the Julian Alps. Italy had a horrific experience, I guess every other country fought this. They thought they would take huge hunks of Austria. It said they had hundreds of thousands die, many times got wounded. They nearly lost. Heck, they nearly were knocked out of the war in 1917 at Caporetto right there. A disaster for Italy. And then at Versailles, they felt cheated and ignored. They thought they were going to get this whole coastline, big hunks of this area here, islands here off of Greece and the Adriatic. They had all these territorial expansion. Did not happen. And then the post-war, every country had an economic depression, like the United States did, combined with the flu. And Italy was ripe for this. The leader of fascism, intelligent, could speak 5 languages, supposedly fluent, even though they said, he kind of exaggerate that, was Benito Mussolini. He was actually a socialist before the war. A newspaper editor, that's his mugshot after being arrested before World War I. But in the war, he was wounded, and the outcome of that war changed him dramatically. And he blamed that country and society was too liberal, too democratic, and turned to right-wing nationalism. And who knows what his actual goals were? I mean, it appeared like his goals was to have followers and have lots of mistresses, but it turned into something much more than that. He appealed to these disillusioned veterans of the war, and using money from big business and the wealthiest people in Italy, fearful of socialism, they got him nice black uniforms, called the black shirts, and his followers would really push how angry, how left out, how upset the veterans of World War I were. They felt that they had been ignored, which in a way they were, and their sacrifice had been for nothing, and they felt that they were cheated. And there were enemies within Italy that did it. And he appealed to them. He played on that resentment that they had. There's whole political parties, whole political movements in the United States too, that is purely based on playing on that resentment. People are resentful of something, just play on it, especially of men in that era. So he talked about going back to a lost age, when Italy was Rome and the Roman Empire. And So by definition, this going back is conservative, but I should add, it's romantic. It's a romantic era. This go back and idealizing some golden age. So it's weird to think about it, but fascism is romantic. To go back. And so you're gonna get like all of a sudden they started making so many of these kind of gaudy fake Roman statues that were fake Greek statues when the Romans did it. And lots of rallies in front of the great arena we call the Colosseum or the Forum, lots of Roman illusion. And so, if we're going to go back to Rome, they used one of the symbols of the Roman Republic and then Roman Empire. Fascism, they got the term from fascio, which was a bundle of rods that would be carried by the proconsul or the magistrate of the Roman Republic. And the idea of this Roman Republic as a fasc is this. It's a bundle of small rods. One rod alone, break easy. But the rod as a bundle is strong, meaning all of us together are strong. Individuals acting on your own are weak. They use this a lot too, the fingers in the fist. Punch you like that, I break a finger. Fist strong, ready? And the same deal, bundle, unbreakable. Now, they went right to the Roman Empire. A magistrate carried this as symbol of Roman law. And Rome would use it when the time of the empire too. But at times of danger or outside of Rome itself, they added a hatchet, meaning they had the power of execution. So then they added the hatchet for the empire, meaning they had the power to kill anytime. And so that's what they would use for the symbol of fascism. That is the fascist symbol. So it was still a monarchy. There was still a king. In fact, this was the flag right before fascism. Now we just get rid of they just don't have the cross or the little crown. Everybody copies the French flag, which is the tricolor. Pretty much everybody copies everything. And crepes, sure, why not? And so they made up a salute. They didn't make it, but they borrowed a salute. Nobody knew how the Romans saluted, but they said, okay, we'll go back to the glories of Rome. So we'll come up with that salute. And this was actually done in the United States, but they borrowed it for fascist Italy, and this would be quickly adopted by fascist Nazi Germany. And there's Mussolini and Hitler. At first, they were rivals, and then kind of by necessity, no one else liked them, they became close, and then Mussolini became like a cheaper partner. Here's little kids learning this. So Italy did it, other places did it. Here we have fascists in Italy, neo-fascist in France. Here's the fascist party in Britain before World War II, which was pretty predominant. And they just, no one had any idea how the Romans saluted. It was made up. You know how it was made up. You know who made it up. It was called the Bellamy salute before the fascists took over. And it's just really simple. A guy named Edward Bellamy made it up. He wrote this thing. He won a contest and wrote about what's the best government to protect rights. And he had an allusion to the Roman Republic. So he made it up as a way. You might have heard this thing he wrote. Have you guys heard? Pledge allegiance to the flag, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, its smoke of liberty and justice. And he wrote that. He came up with this. And since it's Republic, Roman Republic, and you notice some of you might know some different words. After World War I, they added in the United States, they added pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And then 1951, they added under God because the United States marked God as communist. It's purely done as a Cold War issue. Oh, very good. So here's some people doing that little saying I gave you with doing the Bellamy salute. See? I'll do the salute to the flag. The flag. To the flag. A little awkward, isn't it? I don't know why they got rid of that in 1942. I have no idea why they went to this. Could be any reason at all. Yeah, so the Bellamy salute, with that whole thing purely made up in the United States. Let's say Edward Bellamy, not, it was Francis Bellamy. Edward Bellamy was his cousin who wrote a book. I do really like this one. I don't want to give the fascist salute, even though it seems to be in vogue in some places in the United States now. So let's get the fascist ideology. So what is fascist ideology? I already gave you a hint, but there's certain things about fascism, and this is a really good one. That's what Titus's column or Titus's arch. That's the Roman Forum. Right back here would be the Colosseum, full of cats, full to the brim of cats. You go to Colosseum, there's thousands of stray cats. I'm not making that up. It's full of cats. Yes. You didn't see any cats? There were cats everywhere. Are you afraid of cats? So, the organizing principle of fascism is anti-communism. Anti-communism, anti-socialism. That is the organizing principle of all fascist or fascist-leaning parties. That's how they got their organization. That's how they got their popularity. That's how they got their money. But the entire existence of fascist Italy or Nazi Germany, if their organizing principle was anti-communism, anti-socialism. So that is their organizing principle at this time. And but they call they call anybody they don't like socialists. And intensely social Darwinist. Yes. Yeah, National Socialism. Despise them, mortal enemy. Yes. Mortal enemy. Maybe we'll tell you tomorrow. No spoilers. You're gonna have to wait. You go to sleep tonight. Yeah. I'm gonna teach. There's a lot of switch here.
Will be in your ACT.
Actually, I just found out I'm gonna have to proctor.
Like, what is going on today? What's on this? What are you talking about? Oh, well, does she have?
It was crazy. And then I actually.
Sorry, I'm whining about having to proctor the ACT. I know you guys gotta take it, but I'm whining. I'm gonna whine to everybody and no one's gonna give me any time. No one's gonna. I'll get home and I'll whine to my wife and she'll say, shut up. Okay, so, social Darwinism. It is an intensely social Darwinistic practice. The main element of fascism is the idea that there are hierarchies, that there are people, there is authority above, and there's levels of authority. And it's not just of individuals within a country, it's also race, it's also by sex, it is also by belief. There are different levels of hierarchies and they are natural. It's not that somebody is on top because of some kind of merit. No, they are naturally on top because of how they're born or how they're bred. So they're intensely social Darwinists, intensely. And that's when you start to get this idea of this superior race. The Italians would try to stress this, not a lot, because Italy is just this Italy's just a different divided country. But you can see how, us versus them, how that would fit in with Germany. I told you about that pre-World War I Aryan philosophy that fit right in there, but Spain would have it. Other countries that would dabble with fascism would have it. And Americans who are fascists have it too, or at least would dabble in it. We had a pretty big fascist movement called the Bund here in the United States before World War I. So, one of the elements is we got to be strong and strength. And that is very much manliness, masculinity. Men, it's about manly things. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff of like Mussolini doing things without his shirt. You know anything about like Vladimir Putin as elements of fascism. There's lots of him without his shirt. And in fact, someone gave me a puppet of Vladimir Putin without a shirt. Right here. Yeah, so you see manliness and track and field events and athletics and sport. But it's really pushing the male thing. And so even for the lowest, so the men, the body, the workers, the mass, they still have someone they can dominate too. So women are inferior to this, and it's very much men on top and women have to know their place. And so you'll see a lot, when we think of the cult of domesticity, it's really built into that role of women. Hey, this really appeals. This really has a great appeal to young men. So life is tough for you, this will appeal to you. Sitting in their parents' basement. So it's also corporatism. And Mussolini called himself a corporate state and a corporate structure. And all elements from the top all the way down. And we're all in it together. All in it together. All of us as one. Not individuals wanting for rights, but all together. In fact, that's what they would say would be their version of socialism. There's my first hint about Nazi, where National Socialism came from. But it's very much financial monopolies. And they're going to push this. And that's part of the reason why they supported and gave money to fascists. And that's why wealthy people gave money to Nazis. That's why wealthy people gave money to the nationalists in Spain. And one of the big things is they're radically anti-union. Radical. That's why the Wall Street push, they wanted a government like Italy. They wanted a Mussolini to take charge for Roosevelt. Anti-union, break unions. This idea that workers have individual rights, no, we are all together following the leader. And therefore they're anti-liberal ideas. That equals weakness. Now, what are liberal ideas? Well, think about one of the most liberal documents in American history, the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, weak. If individuals are out there producing their own individual rights, you weaken the society. Democracy, weak. You're weak, most of you, and can be influenced by a stronger person. Therefore, the communist, or just anybody who wants a democracy, can influence you. You're weak. And for that matter, law is only to control the weak. The strong don't follow laws. Rights, democracy, and law makes us weak. I can't emphasize that idea about democracy. You're out there on your own deciding, somebody strong will know and convince you to vote for because you're not strong enough. And you accept that. You have to. If you're an authoritarian, you accept there's somebody on top to tell me what to do. And if we're all worried about our individual rights, we're weak. Then that makes the state weak. And that's why Italy did so bad in World War I. So the mass will all together one. Very good. See you six. The mass wills. So I like this statue in front of Emmanuel's Palace. The Colosseum's right over here. There's a rally of the black shirts. And once again, individual week, and we must mobilize the entire country together towards war. In fact, they constantly use illusions of war, total war. We're at war, and who are we at war against? The communists. And they could be anywhere amongst us, making us weak. And if we say, well, we're not a communist, but we want democracy, just by having a democracy will allow the communists to get their foot in the door and we're sunk. So this is hyper nationalism. We're going to expand our empire and spread our control. So massive imperialism, reestablish Rome. So Mussolini started talking about taking to control the Mediterranean. They started building an amazing fleet. Italy had a very good name. And also playing with pretty good planes in the 1930s. They just never really got better after about 1930. Army is a different story. And intense militarism. So there's another one, a lot of the leader in the dress uniform. lots of parades. Train them young. Everyone's gonna have a youth movement to train them. Every one of these fascist states to train kids at a young age. And the leader, the person who speaks for all of us, the leader. Does anybody know what they call Mussolini in Italy, which means the leader? Il Duce, D-U-C-E, Il Duce, meaning the leader. What do they call him? Their leader, which means the leader. Francisco Franco, the fascist dictator of Spain from 38 to 76, was known as El Supremo. Yeah, have a name. He was a fascist, but after World War II, the US became friends with him as their communists. So we outlined the fascists. And lots of dictators. But there's going to be a cult of the leader. His picture will be everywhere. Here's him. I've said not to show us all. We don't see too much of Mussolini without showing. There he is swimming, doing manly things. Mussolini. The cult of the leader. So the leader, there's like almost a religious cult around the leader. His picture will be everything. And the idea is the state equals the leader, and you must show loyalty to the state. So both Italy and Germany, for example, soon have their military now pledge loyalty to the state. Like in Germany, they had to pledge loyalty to the Weimar Constitution, that was the German Constitution after World War I. As soon as they could, they changed it to loyalty to their Führer. Loyalty to the state. That is the most important virtue. Loyalty to the state. Who's the state? The leader. And the leader decides. And you can see elements of cult of the leader go all over. It doesn't have to be just fascist. You know, the pictures of them talking about what they can never do wrong. This is the fascist headquarters in Milan. It got destroyed in 45. That's kind of remarkable. The face of Mussolini. The first time I saw that, I thought that's got to be made. So that's real. It got bombed and then they tore it down almost brick for brick. Almost wish they would have saved it to let people know, go back to fascism, you have stuff like this. So there's Mussolini fencing. See, manly stuff. He's a man. He would die with one of his mistresses. But to give you a picture then of Mussolini, here is one of the greatest things ever put on there. First off, it's Mussolini strutting and preening at one of his rallies. Preening, posing, and then a symbol of how fascism unified Italy. And it's something that I guarantee when you woke up this morning, you were not expecting to see. Here we go. See? Preening and posing. And then here, trucks of nuns doing the fascist salute. Not just one truck. Lines of trucks of nuns doing the salute. I guarantee that was not on your bingo card this morning. Trucks of nun doing. Let's see one more time. I think you do. Preening, posing, and fascist nuns. Not Nazis, they're fascists. All right, everybody. Last thing you gotta write down. Know the bell is about ready to ring. Everyone write down totalitarianism. Everybody, I'll give you a second, write down totalitarianism. And that is the government, and there's no coincidence. Totalitarianism comes from total war. So we'll finish this right after the quiz, which you have 13 minutes to do. You've done the notes.